Hello, everybody. I have got a game for you today. It is a Jori N Rune Diver game, and it was particularly hilarious. It has some good chat, and the reason I decided to join this game and play it, I was actually going to go to bed, was I saw that this guy here, SSdyu 6266, was playing, and for whatever reason, no matter how much I should lose, every single time I play him, I end up winning. And half the time it's because the other two players in the game somehow punt me the game. He always has good decks. He always makes good plays. But kind of like when I play nekusar, which I don't think I've ever lost against on MTGO. Um, Somehow, whenever I play this guy, I just somehow win the game no matter what. And it's surprising considering what a good player he is and what kind of good decks he builds. So I decided to join and immediately start hassling him with the chat. Um, but it ends up being a pretty good and pretty cool game. And my opponents do, in fact, get a chance to kill me at one point during the game, and they choose not to. And we'll just go hop right into the game, and we'll talk about that. But it was a pretty cool game. I see Alicia who smiles at death. He is playing Prime Speaker Zagana. He likes to play Grand Arbiter quite a bit, and I'm very glad that he's not playing that deck, as I find that deck is much more difficult to deal with, especially with the style of deck that Jori is. So I'm actually quite happy that he chose to play Prime Speaker Zagana today. I feel like I'll have a better matchup, and I feel like he's going to have the best deck at the table. So my other opponents are Alacia, who smiles at death, which sometimes that deck can be really, really scary. And I know there's some decently good competitive builds for it, and people getting one shot by Master of Cruelties, and some stacks type strategies. But in general, in MTGO, I don't find that that's what this deck does. It tends to play a bunch of value creatures and dump them into the yard in the same way you would with the combo creatures. Um, so I'm not too scared of Alacia, who smiles at death. It's almost strictly easier to play against than something like Kali the Vast in the same colors on MTGO. And then over here we've got Ispira Supreme Judge, who yet again, this is just like a giant rattlesnake effect, which immediately makes me think Pillow Fort type cards, which yet again is not something that worries me at all. So really, I think this is going to be me trying to hold SSdyu down, and hoping the other two guys don't foil my plans all that much. The opening hand I get is excellent. It's a little land heavy for this deck. I kind of like the 3 land hands the best. But getting Sapphire Medallion is excellent. I always love drawing my early acceleration in this deck to get Jori out quickly, and Sapphire Medallion is one of the best. It's just very, very good with how many colorless cards I have in this deck. It can very, very easily tap for more than 1 mana on a single turn. It's going to allow me to play the Jori and Rune Diver, and then use either the Opt or the Mystical Tutor right behind it and get an extra card immediately. So this is a definite keep. I think if I remember right, Alacia goes first, and he in fact does. He immediately plays Entomb, and I'm very interested to see what he drops. And when I see Solemn Simulacrum, my suspicions are confirmed. He is just the more casual value type of Alacia deck, so I'm not too worried about any kind of ridiculous things he's going to be doing with his commander, and I don't give him much credit for playing ridiculously powerful hate cards towards me in his deck. So that's looking pretty good on that front. So I see a Thawing Glaciers out of this guy. I think he even mentions that. I think it's the chat goes why. Um, let's see here. No, he doesn't say anything yet, but he says he's got a very interesting hand, so I'm actually interested to see what his hand is. I opt to play the Arid Mesa first. I could have saved a little life playing the Steam Vents, and I actually thought about this for a while. But considering what I could see on turn 1, I might want to use Mystical Tutor, and I might even want to use the Pyroblast, just depending on what my opponents do. I'm mainly worried about his turn 1. If he opens with like a Soul Ring or something like that, it might behoove me to just simply open with like a Mana Drain instead of going for my quick Jori and Rune Diver. I really don't like having to do something like that, especially when I have no follow-up. But especially because I want to use this cheap card to replace itself and get rid of the card disadvantage. So I'm hoping I don't have to do it, but I feel the opportunity cost of 2 life is not very high when I've got 40 life to start with. Though, as you'll see, my life total gets quite low this game, so that's something to think about. I do see a turn 1 Soul Ring, but it's out of this player. He doesn't have any colored source of mana yet, though he's obviously going to be using the Sullen Glaciers to go find one. So I'm not too worried about that. I am just going to go ahead and fetch the Volcanic Island, and the reason I'm going to fetch the Volcanic Island is I actually do not want to draw it. A, I don't want to draw a land, but B, I don't want to have to fetch a mountain with Arid Mesa. Um, I really want to be able to get blue off of those red fetches, and considering I already had the steam vents, drawing into Volcanic Isle would have been absolutely horrible, and I didn't see any real reason to hold the fetch. The opportunity to get something like Brainstorm and craft a little bit when my hand's already fairly good isn't that great. I get Helm of Awakening, which I obviously don't want to play too early into these guys, but I feel like it's going to be a very good combo card, especially side by side with the Sapphire Medallion. Will let me do absolutely ridiculous things later, but I don't want to run it out just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just play a regular island here and Sapphire Medallion. He's going to go ahead and use his Thawing Glaciers. He goes ahead and casts a Harrow, charges his Jeweled Amulet, and he has no follow-up behind it. So that Harrow is pretty much just like a Rampant Growth right there. So nothing too scary as of yet. He goes ahead and dumps Alacia, which yet again, because he dumped that Solemn Simulacrum, is not something that I'm necessarily that afraid of. He's going to pretty much dump 3 mana into this thing, 1 mana plus a card to the Entomb, and then he's going to have to pay 2 more just to get a Solemn Simulacrum, which will just give him a Rampant Growth and an eventual cantrip. Treachery off the top is pretty good, though this type of deck I feel like is probably going to be fairly combo-oriented. And since he gets the value off playing his commander, it's not really good to steal his commander. Regardless, Treachery is a very good card, and there's definitely cards I'll be able to steal this game. So I'm kind of happy with this draw, though it's not exactly what I'm looking for at this moment. I'm not too sad with that. I think for a while about playing Jori in and then just playing the Opt. I obviously want to play a card behind it to draw an extra card. And I decide I'm just going to go ahead and play the Mana Drain. And the reason I'm going to do that is it's early enough in the game. And of course, my extra draw gets me the counter spell. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means I'm going to be playing a very controlling game. So I considered after drawing that counter spell that Mana Drain maybe wouldn't be the best card, but I couldn't really think of that much that would be better in this position. I guess I could have got some sort of card draw, but I don't have a really stocked yard to get any of my Delve spells yet. And I feel like I'm going to have to sit back and play a little bit control, and I'm just going to use those instants to milk extra cards off Jori, and then hopefully draw into something that'll allow me to take control of the board back or something like that. I don't feel like I'm in a dominating position, but I feel like I'm in a decent spot, despite the fact that my one opponent is developing quite well on mana. I just don't give him credit for having a degenerate deck that can make use of that mana. In fact, as you see, he does this multiple times. He simply taps out just to be able to use the F8 function. That ends up biting him in the ass later in the game, and we'll see that when it happens. So, go ahead and play my last land. I don't have another land drop yet. Playing it simple here. I plan to pour this Mana Drain at something big. It doesn't necessarily have to be big because I don't have a whole lot of follow-up, but anything it could potentially be devastating. Psychosis Crawler. It will give me 5 mana, so if I get a good top deck off of this drain, they saw me pull the drain, they don't know about the counter spell, so I kind of want to hide it. In addition to that, I do want to be able to counter something on this board pass, and then use the Opt to get 2 cards deeper. Potentially 3 with the Scry, getting rid of a card I don't need. And then from this position, I just need a way to get more cards. So Psychosis Crawler is going to be an easy mana drain here. Not only is it a threat, but it would allow his Prime Speaker Zagana to come down, draw him 5 cards, and then ping all of us for 5, which is very, very bad. So I'm going to go ahead and mana drain that, and then quickly follow up with my Opt. Keeping the fetch land untapped, because if I get something that can craft, like this incredibly good Sensei's Divining Top that the Opt finds, I'll be able to make use of the shuffle effect. So Sensei's Top is exactly the kind of card I needed right now. Down comes Perforce, God of the Forge. So I'm kind of happy about this, and I'm kind of not. That card is definitely a threat. It definitely really hurts. But at the same time, it should help me possibly kill my opponents. Sometimes I go essentially infinite. Well, maybe not infinite, but I can deal quite a bit of damage with a Grape Shot and not kill everyone sometimes in this deck because it's not as combo-y, it's more control. So in general, it's probably not a good thing that Perforce came down. But it's not like he's playing something that just I know he's going to be able to kill the whole table with it with some sort of combo. I feel like it's just going to be that value creature that grinds us all down. I get that Mana Drain mana yet again. All I got is this Mana Vault in this top. So I'm going to go ahead and play both of those and go for my extra card here. It may have been smarter to play the top first with all this extra mana and use the shuffle effect from top before I played the Mana Vault to potentially get 2 draws. One pre-fetch and one post-fetch, as well as just be able to see what's the next card is. I have so much mana and not a lot to use it on that it probably would have been better to sequence the top first instead of the Mana Vault. My opponent, I think, is just tapping out to do stuff and things. I hit a Temporal Manipulation, which, in general, um, not the strongest cards in this deck, though I feel like they hold it together quite well. I don't play a whole lot. I think I play two. I think I just play this in Capture. I might only play one now. I can't remember. It's not something I'm playing max Time Warps in by any means. So I'm going to go ahead and look to the top. There's nothing that I really want there. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. And I'm going to check again. I see a Time Spiral. I kind of want to get out of this hand. And the combination of the Sapphire Medallion, Helm of Awakening, Treachery, and Spiral, that would mean these cards will net me mana. They'll both net me 2 additional mana. So Ritual for 2, Ritual for 2, as well as making the extra land drop after the Time Warp and getting to cast this Helm of Awakening on the Time Warp turn here. I have pretty good chances of doing something disgusting with whatever my Time Spiral hand is. And I can even keep my Sensei's Divining Top because I will Time Warp and then draw it again. So I'll be able to Time Warp, draw Sensei's Top, play it for free. Now, the unfortunate thing here is, well, I guess not unfortunate, is I'm not going to get to draw my card with my second hand. Though I could potentially get something off the Treachery that's good. Obviously, it's not here, it's just a mountain. But it's actually not horrible because that'll give me my 6th land, which will make the Time Spiral tap for just an additional mana and actually make it a Ritual 2 because it would only have been a Ritual for 1. Unfortunately, I do not hit any true gas cards here, and I hit 4 lands, which is really unfortunate. The Ancient Tomb is really doing me no favors with this cost reduction at all. It's pretty much dead at this point. I'm going to go ahead and use my top and hope to find something good. I've already made my land drop, so I can't immediately make use of the Misty Rainforest yet. I see a Grape Shot, a Sower of Temptation, and an island. I obviously don't need the island. I'm not quite sure why I put it that. I don't know why I put the island second. That's kind of silly. I probably reorder that at some point. I play the opt and take the Grape Shot. I think I'm digging to find good spells. That is what I'm doing. I'm digging to find good spells, but you think if I want to do that, what I should have done is put the island on top, put the island down to actually make use of the Scry effective op. So that was, again, another slight misplay. I should have put that island down, giving me access to see an additional card. So yet again, that was a poor play on my part. I should have put the island on top. I don't exactly know what I was thinking. I don't know if it's more of a hindsight thing, but just looking at it, it just seems absolutely retarded, so I'm not quite sure why I did that. But I do see this Vandal Blast, which is actually excellent. I can get rid of the Jeweled Amulet, so 1 mana away from him. I can get rid of this Prevent All Combat Damage thing, which is fairly irrelevant. I get rid of the Psalm Simulacrum, which gives him an extra card, so it's not even necessarily good. But I'm going to get a kill 4 of this guy's mana, as well as get rid of his thing that pings things, and also draw some extra cards. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Vandal Blast and go ahead and pop it right now. There's something to be said about holding it, seeing if these guys get more Degenerate Mana Rocks out of their hand, since I don't really have a whole lot of gas from this position. But I really didn't want to let this player have all the mana in the world and continue to draw extra cards. But considering I had the Cyclonic Rift in the bank, that wasn't even necessarily a good play either. It was actually fairly greedy. SSdyu goes ahead and so I guess I didn't play this game quite as well as I thought. Now watching myself, I'm kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't do that quite that often, but it is what it is. He plays a Great Whale. That is absolutely horrible because that is a draw 6 off of his Zagana, and he's going to get to untap 7 lands, play his Zagana for 5, and then draw 6 cards, which I absolutely cannot let happen. So I'm going to go ahead and mana drain his ability to do that right there. And then I bounce the Purphos, God of the Forge, and don't hold the Cyclonic Rift. Not quite sure why I did that either. I'm making some really questionable plays this game, but yeah, I'm not quite sure why I did that either. It was kind of silly. From this position, you'd think I'd want to hold a card like that when it only costs 5 to overload it to protect myself. But yet again, me just being stuck in full-on combo mode and just trying to tempo and just having faith that I'm going to go off or find some kind of hit card next turn. Though really, that's not this kind of what this deck kind of does. So I go ahead and play the top. Go ahead and check 3. Mana Leak, Turnabout, and an Island. None of that is good, so I'm probably going to fetch. Okay, now I'm doing what I think I'm going to do, which is always a good thing. So fetch, and probably top again. Still digging for gas. No idea why I wasted all the cards that I had in my hand. Soul Ring, Mox Opal, and Command Tower. Yep, I remember this. I think I decide to get the Soul Ring just to cantrip back into the top and look 1 card deeper yet again. and it's Mox Opal land and a Lotus Petal yet again, nothing, and now I have no way to draw. I'm in a fairly poor position, um, and because I've squandered my Vandal Blast and my Cyclonic Rift, I'm really at my opponent's mercy at this point. He goes ahead and activates Mishra's Workshop and makes it bigger, which on the one hand I'm actually kind of glad about. It means he doesn't have a good hit card. On the other hand, I don't want him to use his Zagana to draw cards, but it's better than if he wasn't doing that. So as soon as he activates it, I'm actually happy. Though he plays a Farhaven Elf behind it, so yet again, nothing spectacular. Um, but now he's on the board, and he definitely has a presence. And I feel like I'm definitely behind with no real form of gas. Ponyback Brigade brings in lots of tokens, and this Grave Shot is looking like it has a slightly better chance of killing my arch nemesis over here, though not really. He's more like my luck charm. Alicia, who smiles at death, swings in. Yep, and he goes and gets Karmic Guide. Puriphos triggers. Bash bash. I'm pretty sure this is headed at me. Yeah. And I think it's headed at me because he can't afford to pay Ghostly Prison, and he can't afford to swing into Zagana. So I don't even necessarily think he's just going for me. I think he just wanted to get his Karmic Guide out. This is the point where Basol does something that's rather silly of his own, and he instantly sorts of Plowshares as this Karmic Guide. I mean, this guy has no sack outlet. I don't really know why he's so scared of Karmic Guide. At the very least, he could have held it and used it later. I think, honestly, he makes a tap-out play here, and I also think he did it just to be able to F8 again, because he plays his commander followed by Sphere of Safety. So I want to say he did that just to tap out, though... I mean, if he wanted to tap out, he could have done that holding the swords, but then that wouldn't have really made sense. I think later he says, "Did you really want a Karmic Guide over there?" Because on this next turn, I immediately steal his Aspara to make it so I'm the one who isn't going to be getting attacked. Though honestly, you have to pay 4 to attack him at this point, so I don't really think he's getting swung at either. But with this Aspara, not only do I have the potential to draw cards if someone's silly enough to swing at me, but I'm now in a position where I'm not going to be taking damage, hopefully, from the army here that Judd Amber has started to set up. Play my Mox Opal as a cantrip into the pedal. Yet again, I probably, with the amount of mana I had, should have spawned the top before that. Go ahead and see Mind's Desire in 2 lands. And with the 2 lands there, I'm in a pretty shitty position. I decide I'm just going to play the Lotus Petal and the Grape Shot off and just put myself pretty much all in on the Mind's Desire. But the reason I'm going to do this, I still decide to kill the Alicia and his other 2-drop there. Killing the 2-drop was probably not a good idea in hindsight yet again. Man, I'm playing this game fairly bad because the Alicia can now bring this card back in Puriphos again. I probably should have just wiped some tokens, or maybe the Farhaven Elf. There's really no reason for me to kill that 2-2, but I think the main thing was killing Alicia, and more than anything, just building Storm and casting it was the most relevant part of that. So I'm obviously going to lose my top casting this Mind's Desire. And in this type of deck, a Mind's Desire for 5 is probably not going to win me a game. I hit a Condescend, a land, a Young Pyromancer, another land, and then it gives me my Sensei's top back. So, hey, at least I got the top back, and it ended up being good value. So I'm going to go ahead and lead the Pyromancer. I'm going to go ahead and Condescend my own top to get a little Scry going. And I see a Fact or Fiction and a Cryptic Command, which is excellent. After this guy has just drawn cards, I feel like I'm going to need the Cryptic Command, and I feel like if I use the Fact or Fiction, that I'm not going to get the Cryptic Command and the Sensei's top back, and I'm only going to see a couple extra cards, so I don't really want to do that as of yet. So I decided to put the Cryptic Command on top and plan on Cryptic Commanding whatever his play is. I do use the top to check what the third card is, and it's just an Anticipate, so that's definitely going to be the third card down. I could have technically, I guess, and flipped the top and then anticipated to redraw the top and played the top again and checked more, but then I would have had to pop the Lotus Petal, I think, and I didn't want to do that. Not that it would have been a huge deal. He plays a Soul Conduit, which lets him switch life totals, and Puriphos is in a position that he could very easily knock out whoever gets the 6 life, so I feel like I must Cryptic Command the spell, or Puriphos is just going to end my life, and I'd rather end his life. He pitches 2 cards and commandeers it, which allows you to target the Cryptic Command to the Commandeer, which is then no longer on the stack because it already resolved, which counters the spell due to not actually having a target, and Since he does it that way, he doesn't get to draw the card off Cryptic Command, which is kind of interesting. Since it has two modes, and I thought the card tried to resolve as much as possible, you'd think that he would draw a card, but I don't think he does. Which I don't know if that's a bug on MTG or if that's the correct way that's supposed to work. I think he'd still draw the card, but I guess since it had no legal targets, it fizzled. Though I guess since draw card doesn't have a target, um, I'm not a judge, so I'm typically pretty good with rulings, but I'm surprised he didn't draw the card there. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but that's what happens this game. So he gets Soul Conduit down, and obviously, uh, life total is not swapping with the 40 life player. It's not swapping with the 28 life player. He's saying, Moxnix, you need to die. And I say, Judd, please don't play 3 creatures. And he plays the first one. It is Alacia. Bam, 2. And down comes Murderous Redcap. And I am like, oh my god, 2 and 3, I am dead. Purifos. But look at this. The Murderous Redcap is targeting him and not me. He lets me live at 2 life. Living on the edge. He goes ahead and lets me survive. And that will end up being his downfall here. This guy plays Karn and he says something to the effect of, I'm doing this for the good of everybody, so please play nice. Which I have absolutely no intention of doing. He gets rid of the Purifos God of the Forge, which puts me in the position where even if I'm not able to do something degenerate this turn, I'm no longer in a losing position. So obviously going to draw my top. I decide the difference between 1 and 2 life is pretty much nothing, so I'm not going to be untapping the Mana Vault. Play top. Draw a card with top because we know it's Factor Fiction, right? And part of the reason we want to do that is we want to draw the top before Factor Fiction pops. So we draw, and then Judd says something to the effect of, I always give 5-0 splits. So I target him. But there's only one card in this pile that matters. That's right. The Factor Fiction finds the Past in Flames. And look at this graveyard. Look at this graveyard. If that wasn't good enough, he does 5-0 split. So I open with Anticipate, because I get the Anticipate and the Past in Flames. So I'm going to go ahead and lead with this Anticipate, just in case I've got a counter spell waiting for me over here. And what does Anticipate find? Future Sight, which Future Top right now completely ends the game. I've got Helm of Awakening. So I go first for the Future Sight. Merchant Scroll on top. It gets even more disgusting. I go to play top, my first move with priority, and he has a Relic Crush. And he chooses to take out the Sapphire Medallion and the Future Sight. I'm actually surprised with him seeing the Merchant Scroll on top and knowing I have Past in Flames in my hand that he opts to kill the Sapphire Medallion over the Helm of Awakening. But I can see that if I don't combo off, the Helm of Awakening could help him. I'm not quite sure. But with the amount of mana he has, I'm not quite sure why he targets that over that, though it's really not that important. Either way, he does get through my first line of free 5-0 split, Factor Fiction. And I don't know whether he actually had a counter spell for the Past in Flames or not, or if it was relevant since I could have flashed it back anyway. But now that I have this Merchant Scroll, I can go ahead and grab Turnabout, which only costs 3 right now, and give myself a bunch of mana with it. Then I can use Past in Flames. I can go get High Tide. And then with that Mind's Desire in my yard and all those cantrips and spells, the game is just beyond over. The other 2 players scoop it up. He 5-0 splits me again. Not yet again. I think the only card that really mattered there was the Candelabra. But Feast and Famine, just spamming stuff. Mind's Desire for like 20. And the writing, I think, at this point is pretty much on the wall. This game is over. All the cantrips, all the stuff. I play some more stuff from my yard. I play a bunch of free stuff. I Time Twister because there's nothing relevant in my hand. And I want to put the Future Sight and stuff like that back in my deck. I guess technically I could have recast all that stuff and flash back the Past in Flames and it wouldn't have mattered. But either way, the game is beyond over. And at this point, it's just upping my Storm count for Grape Shot, which I'm not even counting at this point. I'm just like, Grape Shot's got to kill him by now. And I have about 5 zillion mana. And there's Grape Shot for, I think, like 50 or 60 or something like that. And I easily could have kept going and made this Grape Shot kill the whole table would have been not a problem, even if the other players had stayed. even if they still had more life than they did. If not, I can always take an extra turn and swing with all that stuff. Either way, I thought this was a pretty funny game. Um, Going back and watching it was kind of interesting because I made a lot more mistakes than I actually thought I did. Quite a few mistakes actually. Though yet again, it doesn't really seem to matter with my luck charm. I'll just call him Super Saiyan 6266. It doesn't matter how much I should lose the game for whatever reason. When he's in the game, I just can't lose. It's I don't know. It's his curse. He gives me the Yu-Gi-Oh luck, and almost every single time one of the other two opponents has a chance to kill me or something like that, and they spare me. And I don't know if it makes him salty or not, but I always say something whenever I play him. And he's kind of a silent player. He doesn't say all that much, and typically towards the end of the game, once the writing's on the wall and I win again, he'll say one or two things. And I think this game he says something to the effect of what did he say? Something about my extra turn. When you see someone play an extra turn, that should be an indication that player needs to be taken out first. Which extra turns in general are used for infinite loops, but in this deck I actually consider them to be some of the weakest cards in the deck, to be quite honest. But either way, I felt like this was a fun game, and I decided I would upload this one for you. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Moxnix signing out.